negotiating group of about 25 nations. Australia has been in that negotiating group from the beginning of these negotiations. This last round of negotiations with that group began at 11 p.m. last night. It ran through the tree this morning with myself in attendance, and then coming on remaining through the night. I reviewed at 8 a.m. this morning, and we have just concluded at 1 a.m. the next day. This has been a long day. This Copenhagen Accord will now be submitted to the Conference of Parties for approval. This Copenhagen Accord is a significant global agreement on climate change action. It is the first global agreement on climate change action between rich countries and poor countries. This is the first time that rich countries and poor countries have agreed that we should keep our temperature increases within 2 degrees Celsius. This is the first time that both rich countries and poor countries have both agreed on actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This is the first time that there is agreement between rich countries and poor countries on international verification mechanisms on actions taken. And this is the first time that we have an agreement between rich countries and poor countries on the finance necessary to support the mitigation efforts, the adaptation efforts of the most vulnerable countries in the world. Much more remains to be done. Much more work will still be done, and we will be putting our shoulder to the wheel to make sure that work is done. The next Conference of Parties will be held in Mexico, and that will be during the course of 2010 at a date to be determined, and there is much work to be done in taking this Copenhagen Accord through to its conclusion in a final treaty arrangement. The truth is, as of 24 hours ago, these negotiations stood at a point of complete collapse. The difference between the parties was huge, and huge on a number of significant policy disagreements. However, through the negotiating efforts of a large number of countries and individuals and their representatives, and I've got to say in particular in the overnight session led by the climate change minister, we were able to narrow those areas of disagreement, and as I said, as of 1 o'clock this morning, finally concluded these arrangements. Again, subject to the Copenhagen Accord and presented to the Conference of Parties, which I understand will occur later this morning in Copenhagen. This has probably been the toughest set of negotiations that I've been involved in. Any adventure this one had to be more intensely than I have in the past. To have been upfront and personal with such a range of deeply held policy views from different countries which threatened to collapse the entire show was a difficult time for us all, but we have worked our way through this. The final thing I'll say before taking your questions is this. This is an important agreement on climate change action for Australia. Australia is among the hottest and driest continents on Earth where the effects of climate change are felt first and hardest. Australia, therefore, has a fundamental national interest in obtaining a global agreement on climate change action. When we look at the next generation of Australian kids, when we look at the challenge for Australian industry in the future, when we look at the challenge facing our natural environment, including the Great Barrier Reef for the future, there is no alternative course of action other than global climate change action. This represents a significant global agreement. A huge amount of work still remains to be done. But the alternative, which we confronted, staring at the abyss at midnight last night, with these negotiations collapsing altogether and throwing back all progress that has been reached in recent times on global climate change action. I'm happy to take your questions.
One other question about the requirement of national commitment. We kind of know that.
I have to do something.
In terms of the national commitment, what is Australia's national commitment in the light of what was agreed as part of the Copenhagen Accord?
Consistent with a range of countries, our commitments still remain in the conditional range of 5 to 25% reductions. That figure will be finalised and formalised once we have aggregated all of the other conditional commitments when they are registered finally in the schedule attached to this Copenhagen Accord. That will take a period of time ahead. Once that is done, what we're going to do is apply, of course, the conditions which we made public in May of this year as to which of the target range that we have put out would apply in Australia's case. It is not physically possible to do that at this stage until all the other commitments are translated into schedules and made available either bilaterally or through the multilateral arrangements of this Accord. At that time, we'll make our position absolutely plain and the basis for arriving at it.
So, Prime Minister, if that's the case, it's going to be right. So, there's no need for this Australian students to pass before Copenhagen.
Can I just say on the climate change body, what's required on climate change is action nationally and action internationally. Let's just go to the national actions necessary. 34, 36 of the developed economies represented at this conference here either had or in the process of developing emissions trading schemes to give effect to their national targets. Therefore, in Australia's case, once our national target is determined within the range that I just mentioned, we're going to need a mechanism within Australia to make it work. That's what an emissions trading scheme is. And therefore, you ask, why is it necessary? It's absolutely necessary to give effect to the targets which are within the Australian target range and which will be confirmed in detail once all other nations have agreed to these with the schedule of actions called Marble. Yes,
Prime Minister, this is hardly the grand bargain you asked yesterday. If it was this brutally tough to get the document as easy as you not read with that, it's going to be impossible to get the world to agree to something binding within a year.
You're right, these negotiations have been exceptionally tough. The attitude taken by various countries in these negotiations has been particularly hard-line. As I said, there was a grave risk that these negotiations would collapse altogether and we would have a triumph of inaction over action. Instead, we have a result which underpins action in the 4 areas that I listed before. That represents substantive progress on where we were. In terms of the difficulties going forward, you are absolutely right. This was really hard, really hard, and will remain that way for the period ahead. Can I say this? Any action at home or abroad on climate change is a battle because you're dealing with a whole series of interest groups, some of whom don't want to act. And as a result, you've got to push your way through. And you need to push your way through on climate change, sometimes step by step, sometimes with setbacks, sometimes with significant steps forward of the type we have this evening, because it's heading in the right direction, which is national and global action on climate change. And for Australia, there is no alternative as the hottest and driest continent, or among the hottest and driest continents of the North.
Does this actually require that a binding to be negotiated for a non-Kyoto party? Is that clear? And what happens if the COP doesn't approve it? What happens if it's not agreed to?
I cannot predict finally and formally what will happen in terms of the operations of the COP. You yourself have had some observations of how the Conference of the Parties works. But the reason why the chair selected a group of 25 nations ranging from Sudan to the United States and at most points in between was in order to have sufficient capacity to bring constituent groups from within the United Nations family to a point of agreement. As I said, I'm just being upfront with you, it's still got to go through the Conference of Parties, and that will occur in the hours ahead. Well, I think we should simply take each step as it emerges. I have been involved in the business of negotiations long enough to know that it's best simply to take each step as it comes. I'm simply being cautious in what I say. In terms of the expectations of emerging economies and developing economies,